Rob, the Patriots obviously off to a 1-3 start, and I mean they actually do have some winnable games on their schedule, but I've never ever thought that they were going to make the playoffs this year, and I thought when Aaron Rodgers was healthy, they were a clear fourth best team in that 4-team division of the AFC East. And now they're 1-3. They just got shellacked by the Cowboys by 35 points, worst beating of Bill Belichick's career. They got the Saints coming up Sunday, Rob. Obviously, a winnable game. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then they got the Raiders after that. That's winnable as well. But Tom Curran, who does a great job covering the Patriots, he said in a podcast recently, Rob, something that is jarring, and here it is.
They are so far from a well-coached team that's disciplined and situationally smart. I contend that they were the worst coached team in football last year. Like, who lasts longer, Bill or Mac? Or do they both go at the same time? I mean, that's kind of the conversation.
So he's saying that, I mean, he's throwing it out there that Bill Belichick could be fired. Because obviously he threw out who lasts longer, Bill or Mac, meaning Mac Jones, their quarterback. Rob, what are your thoughts on this?
I'm not buying any of that. And I know he covers the Patriots and all that. If that was a story he's breaking, that would be some story. I do not see Bill Belichick, Chris, under any circumstances being fired from the Patriots. Will they part ways at the end of a season or move on or what? But I'm talking about like fired. Oh, get out, Bill. No, I don't see it. I don't.
I'm completely with you.
Am I right? Like Chris, it could end. Nobody's going to keep a job forever. This is not the Supreme Court. He's not the Pope. So yes, could they move on from him? Yes. But fire him like in the middle of the season and throw Bill Belichick out? I'll have to see it to believe it.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I'll go even a step further. They shouldn't fire Bill Belichick. They can't fire Bill Belichick. And Rob, you know, I am on the record many times as saying Brady deserves more credit than Belichick for those championships. Now, I'm not saying Belichick doesn't deserve any because he's a great defensive coach. And those early championships with Brady was a game manager. But I've pointed out that Belichick has done pretty much nothing without Brady, whether it was before he got Brady in New England or after. He's made the playoffs 2 out of the 10 years he's coached without Brady. The year before Brady took over, Rob, he had Drew Bledsoe, who you know was a 4-time Pro Bowler, like was a top quarterback. I believe Rob was the first quarterback to make $100 million. First football player to make $100 million in a contract. And they won 5 games. And then Bledsoe got hurt. They were, I think, 0-2. And then Brady took over out of necessity, and the rest is history. I give Belichick credit for sticking with Brady when Bledsoe came back healthy, and for building those defenses around, that could protect Brady when he was young and still developing. So I'm not trying to, say he just happened to be along for the ride. But regardless of how you feel about it, Rob, he won 6 Super Bowls. And I'm with you. Like, whether it's at the end of this year or next year or whatever, if they want to sit down with Belichick and be like, hey, this isn't working, we want to go in a different direction, let's part ways, with dignity. It can be, you don't even have to be mutual, just you stepping away. Or they could say, Rob, they don't mind him coaching, but they don't want him to be the GM, whatever it is. But to outright fire, the Spurs, they could have fired Greg Popovich. They had, I think, 4 horrific seasons. They didn't do it. They haven't won a thing since Tim Duncan left and Manu Ginobili and Tony Parker. Even with Kawhi left because he didn't like the way things were being run.
100%.
Right? And so you could have been like, oh, he doesn't relate to the modern day player, all that stuff.
You could have run him out of there, Chris, easily.
They never considered it. And Rob, Chuck Noll obviously won 4 Super Bowls with the Steelers. He made the playoffs 4 out of his last 12 seasons with Pittsburgh.
Yep.
They didn't fire him. I mean, there's certain things you just don't do. And Rob, I'll say this and then let you go.
And I'm not a big Bill Belichick fan either. I'm not.
You've been harder on him than me. I mean, for the cheating and all that. And all I'll say, and I don't think Robert Kraft's even thinking about selling them. But if he did and another owner came in,
definitely,
he could do it like when Jerry Jones fired Tom Landry.
Right, because
that's different.
Because that's when it's yours now, your baby. Yep. You get to do whatever you want, and I understand that. I remember the shockwaves, Chris, when Tom Landry was fired. It was like,
and even
oh my God.
It felt a little off-putting, but you get it, right? But
right. It was
like, man, this dude's a legend.
But he brought in his own guy, so that would make sense to me, but I do not like this idea that he's on par with Mac Jones. Really?
Right,
Come on, Chris. I'm sorry. I'm not. I just don't. It sounds good and it sounds like juicy material.
Right.
But I can't. It would be stunning that he's in line, right, to pass Shula, right? And they would get rid of him?
Now, that's the interesting thing, Rob. He needs 19. And Rob G, it is 19. I heard a couple people saying 29, but I think it's 19.
How many
Double
more?
check that, Rob G.
If it's 29, then it might not happen.
Well, look, I'm starting to wonder about 19, Rob.
Nah, he can get it because he would.
Like this year, what they gonna win this year? 6, 7?
If he parted ways with them, Chris, somebody would hire him. I'm telling you.
He's 17 away from tying, so he needs 18 to win.
So he needs 2 9-win seasons.
I think that's this season. I think it's this season and 2 after that.
Wow.
I mean, that's a lot.
How old is he though? He's 70.
He's like 72, I think. Rob G. He's one of the oldest ever is 73. That was Romeo Crennel, I believe, who was an interim.
He's 71, Chris, 71.
Right.
So.
And George Hollis was 73, and Romeo Crennel was like an interim.
And what's crazy is Pete Carroll is older. Is Pete Carroll? Pete Carroll, Chris, is 72. He looks good.
Pete Carroll looks great. Yeah,
doesn't he?
I mean, they both are obviously in good shape for guys that old. There's no doubt. But, yeah, Carroll really looks good.
And Nick Saban, 71. Chris, if Pete Carroll
all those guys are going to coach, at least Carroll and Saban
4 or 5 more years
are going to coach, till they're
if Pete Carroll dyed his hair, you wouldn't believe that he would. Am I right? If he dyed his hair, you would say he's in his early 60s.
Yeah, I mean, no doubt. Like, he definitely is in great shape. But right. You just I think, look, I don't know. Are there people in the organization leaking stuff to reporters out there in New England?
Chris,
I don't know.
You know what? You're probably right. And remember this. Bill Belichick has probably crushed a lot of people along the way. When you're at a place for a long time, and when they finally smell like you couldn't say anything, Chris, because he was winning. Right. But when there's finally some blood in the water, that's where that stuff.
Talking about media?
No, I'm talking about like the people inside the building. Yeah, because they look at him as vulnerable. You know what I mean? Like now.
I was saying today on First Things First. The only possible way, Rob, that you would fire him is if indeed, and we know there's been tension there between him and Kraft, him and Brady, but tension is one thing. But I'm talking about if this guy is hated by virtually everybody in the organization, and, he is just known as the number one jerk in the league, and he just runs over people, steps on people, treats people like crap, and they can't do anything about it because he's been so successful. That's one thing, right? I mean, I would kind of get that, but I don't think it's. I mean, I don't think it's been that bad, Rob. I mean, do you?
No, a couple years ago when they made the playoffs, it was incredible that they were able to make the playoffs.
No, but I'm just saying, like,
Oh, what?
Like, I don't think he's that hated. I mean, sure,
No.
you got people that don't like you.
I'm just
or
saying
whatever,
there are
but I
enemies,
can't
and
be
you know
that
what I'm
hated.
saying. But I doubt it. Right?
Yeah,
a lot
I
of
mean-
people had a long careers there, Chris, and success, and got money because of the success of
Absolutely.
the franchise.
Absolutely.
Because
probably
if
everybody in that building that's been there, for any significant length of time
Right.
benefited from Belichick.
Because if you're winning, Chris, remember there's bonuses, all
Oh,
kinds of stuff
yeah.
that comes with winning a Super Bowl.
Yep.
They probably got a
No
couple of
question.
staff rings, Super Bowl rings,
No
when they
question.
make people rings for the staff.
Yep. It does. You're right. It trickles down, man.
Yeah.
There's no doubt
And that's
about
why
it.
that's how you keep people loyal, because you got to
Yep.
spread the wealth, share with people who are in it. You know what? At one time, Chris, this is always, I think, was the craziest thing in baseball. Can you believe the writers used to get World Series rings who covered the team?
Really?
Hal McCoy.
I bet you the New York Times didn't allow.
No,
they
didn't
wouldn't even allow us to
vote. Yeah, you guys couldn't
when
even
I was
vote.
there.
Yeah,
For
Hal
like
McCoy from the Dayton
awards.
Daily News. He's a Hall of Fame writer, one of my favorite people of all time. He got rings when the Reds won in 75 and 76.
Wow.
I just like he showed me a World Series
I
ring with his
wonder,
name
was it-
on it. I'm like,
was it
wow.
back then where the writers
Travel.
I mean, obviously there was some independence, but were they to some extent considered like a part of the team? You know what I mean? Like
yes, they were.
yeah,
Because they all
yeah.
traveled together, the broadcasters, the writers. Chris, I used to be on the Nets team bus. I think that was past your era.
the Nets?
Yes.
New basketball?
The New Jersey Nets.
On the bus?
On the bus with
Going
the
where?
players.
Like to the games
From
and
the
stuff?
from the
From the hotel?
hotel to the arena. We'd all go together.
Wow.
We wouldn't get in the cab.
I wasn't from the time I started covering Rob, we certainly weren't on buses. We weren't flying with the teams. And we weren't even allowed in practice. Now, when you covered the NBA, couldn't you go watch the whole practice?
We watch practice all the time.
Yeah, we could see, like, they let us in for like the last 10 minutes.
No, we used to watch practice. I used to fly commercial.
Did you go to the whole practice, like, for the most part?
Yeah, not every day, but you know what I mean. Like if I was writing an off day story or something, shoot around, I'd go to shoot around and then go back go back to my hotel. But we would travel with them. Like they would be sitting next to me on a commercial
That's
flight.
crazy.
It
was all charter by the time I started.
I would get on the team bus, Chris. The bus is at 4:05 or whatever. At 5 o'clock for this arena.
Wow.
And I remember us going to the Salt Lake City Marriott, Chris, over to the Salt Palace, which was literally across the street.
Right.
And Bill Fitch wouldn't let any
Right.
players walk by themselves. You had to take the bus.
Yeah, no, that's how they do.
He said, we got to go as a team.
So when you or someone, any other writer, wrote something, negative, whether it was just your opinion or you broke a story that was, negative towards some people, what was it like?
They just confronted you,
detention.
but it was no, like on the bus. No, usually they didn't give you a hard time. I never had any, they would confront you. I was confronted by players who didn't like what I said, but never like publicly. You know what I mean? In the bus
Right.
or in the airport or whatever.
That's cool.